Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the West London VR Rocky Mountain Race on Esports. We're happy to have everyone out today. Okay, today we have two great responsibilities and two uncrashables. Used wisely, the uncrashables should get you through the tricky spots of the course, but watch out for that great responsibility. Don't use it before a corner, or otherwise, unless you're using uncrashable at the same time, you probably will go down. There are a number of long straights where the great responsibility will work quite well. We'll see how the riders use their tactics today. Generally speaking, Rocky Mountain is not a technical course, although there's a couple of places that can catch you out, so you got to pay attention to those. Mostly a power course. It looks like it's quite hilly, but it really isn't. The grades are quite sedate in the 1% to 2% range. Generally speaking, I think a couple of kickers that are out there, but nothing past I think 4%, something like that, here on Rocky Mountains. Okay, here we are at the start. Everybody is ghosted, as we say, or transparent. That just means for the first, we put everybody on the start line so everybody has the same ability to come off of the start line. And what we have is the ability to move through riders for about 10 seconds. Okay, we've got someone out there putting in a big effort. Tony, looks like he's from Great Britain, and he's set up a little bit of start, but everybody coming back together. I would imagine that most people will come together in a bit of a peloton today. And we see here Homer Thompson. Homer is the diesel engine of Esports. He just really can pull everybody back together. We've got Rene Veladez out here today as well from the Esports team. He's actually one of the developers. And he always says he's going to go easy, and he doesn't feel good, and he's not in shape, and then he goes out hard and contests for the win, and he's definitely following Homer's wheel. We've got Brett about 2 seconds behind, who might find it a little bit difficult. He really wants to get on that wheel with Homer because, like I said, Homer is the diesel engine. We see him out here quite a bit. Homer does a tremendous amount of endurance work, and he will pull back riders. That seems to, I think he lives for that, in fact, to be able to pull back riders. We see Vanessa here coming back together with Zany Ryder. They're all back on Brett, and I think Brett's like, hey, you guys pull for a bit. And Vanessa sort of took it easy yesterday, so I would expect her to sort of go to the front here and pull back to Homer. And I would expect the front to probably diminish a bit in terms of their effort. Tony's still putting out a big effort, and it looks like Tony is new to the platform based on his heart rate. But what he will find is that the system is quickly going to be equalizing him and or her, I guess. And what's going to happen is they won't be able to put out this much power for the whole race. And as they get towards the end, their power will diminish. What we call RTUs, or real-time updates, to their power curves in terms of equalization. And then Homer will probably drag them back in as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the end of the race shows. But for now, Tony's got a bit of a gap. The question is, will they be able to hold it? So you've got Renee and Homer sort of coming back here. Looks like Vanessa is trying to pull them back at about 7 seconds. And it'll be interesting to see. Vanessa probably, from a situational awareness perspective, we've got a lot of data on the screen here. She's going to need to maintain 10 to 20% more watts than Homer in order to be able to bring that back. They're both getting the drafting dynamics that are out there, so that they should work together well there. And it looks like Brett and Vanessa are going to work together. Zany Ryder just a bit off the back there, and so it'll be interesting to see if Zany Ryder can make it back, make connection back with this little bit of a group. And then it looks like Homer, Renee, Vanessa, and Brett will all come back together. And then they should be able to form a pace line. Pace line works really well on Cade Sport. You might want to turn off autopilot. We have a new TTT mode coming for autopilot that would help you in a pace line so that you don't follow the rider in front of you. So unlike some other cycling, virtual cycling platforms, Cade Sport is its autopilot and its drafting dynamics are all meant to mimic in real life. So autopilot tends to follow another rider unless you're putting out substantially more power than the rider in front of you, in which case the autopilot understands that you'd like to pass that rider, and you will move you out into a clear lane so that you can pass the rider. But better is probably to steer because then you don't have to put out a big wattage difference. So what I see here is Homer and Renee definitely sort of in the, the cool zone. Oh, Vanessa using greater responsibility power up on this long straight. We'll see if, and she's even leaving Homer and Renee behind. So Vanessa's legs must be feeling really, really good today, or she's expecting the other riders to respond with greater responsibility as well. Vanessa's within 6 seconds of Tony, and so we'll see how good she is feeling today. She's maintaining about 600 watts. 421 watts is equalized. She can see Tony, and looks like she's trying to bring Tony back. Brett also using the power up, and hopefully that power up is going to diminish. Yep, so that's really good timing as well. But if you save it for too late, you're going to run into this corner, and then you'll probably crash at that sort of thing. So Renee is really pushing the envelope here. Might have waited a little too late, and probably hitting the brakes about. Oh wow, that was really close timing, and no. So that was a great play, but it cost him in the end. Had to use that a little bit earlier. So it's too bad that Renee wasn't listening to the commentary a little bit earlier when I said you want to use that early on the straights. 20 seconds of greater responsibility means you recover a tremendous amount of ground. And now what we have here is Vanessa 2 seconds behind Tony. Tony's heart rate at 292. I think this is probably the first time they've been on the platform. But Vanessa's going to keep pushing, which is very wise here because Tony's power is going to diminish and diminish and diminish over time. And it looks like Tony's, upping, trying to maintain that gap. And Vanessa's doing a fantastic job for a rider who is fully equalized. She rides multiple times per week. And then here is the one of the key equalizers. We see that Tony goes down in a tight corner because he's putting out lots of watts, him or her, and we see that Vanessa. Oh, so I thought Vanessa was gonna definitely be able to sort of take the lead there because skills play such a significant part in Cade Sport. Here we've got Brett from West London, definitely moving closer, and this will be interesting to see how this plays out because, again, as the event goes on, Tony's power is going to be reduced more and more and more. And we can see Vanessa is now in the draft of Tony, and if Brett can get there, then obviously they're going to get the draft savings, and even the power advantage that Tony normally has will be sort of neutralized between that and the skills, between drafting and the skills. This should be quite an interesting finish. We've got Renee 11 seconds off the back. Looks like maybe he's sort of thrown in the towel a little bit, or he's waiting for Homer, which is a very wise move to wait for the diesel engine here on Cade Sport. So we're going to go through some tight corners. Oh, looks like Tony is sort of learning that you got to take these carefully. So that's a quick study. Very good in that regard. He'll probably be a little overcautious, which is quite natural when you're coming to Cade Sport. At first, you don't really get the corners, then you crash in the corners, then you become overcautious. And then you can see here, Brett is doing a fantastic job with the skills, really sort of pushing those corner speeds. And with a little bit of practice, Tony will be able to do that as well. But you see there's a little bit of a gap. And so this sort of equalization, skills, drafting, pieces all coming together, we'll see Tony be able to sort of put the hammer down here and get caught back up. And then you've also got to pay attention to these corners, and you see Tony sort of easing up there. So this is great dynamics here on Cade Sport. We've got 3 people on the front. Actually, we've got a long way to go. It's 2 laps. So I would say here advantage Brett and Vanessa. But Tony says, I don't think so. I've got lots of power in my legs. And so it'll be interesting to see how that looks over time. We see Brett here just off the back, and then coming back into Cade Sport. One of the things that you'll see on Cade Sport is that because of the drafting dynamics, it'll look a lot more like in real life, the pelotons. Instead of sort of being a blob that goes across the road, you'll see that on Cade Sport, but that's when the peloton's going pretty easy, just like it is in real life. And when the peloton is going hard, you'll see it sort of, line up. So Tony says, I've got lots and lots of power, so I'm going to use that. Brett responds to the attack as well. And we'll see how this sort of works out. We're nearing halfway point in the race. Some great graphics. I love the lighting here on Rocky Mountains in Cade Sport, and the God rays, as they're typically called, the sun as it moves through the trees and creates the different pieces here. Now, looks like Vanessa backed off there a little bit, and looks like she's also trying to bring the power back up. And it'll be interesting to see if she can get back up to Brett, or if this sort of becomes an individual time trial, for the various racers. Now I see Homer, he's about 28 seconds back. He's putting out 500 watts. So I don't know if he went down in a crash or exactly what happened that's got him sort of off the back. But he's holding quite a few watts. But that might be he might have had a technical. That looks like it might have been a technical to me, because it looks like maybe he disconnected, maybe he had an internet blip, because otherwise his power would be changing. And so would his speed be, and so it looks like that's locked in. So it doesn't look like Renee's totally given up the ghost today yet, but he's certainly not doing anything to sort of close the gap. Now, Brett is entering the Hurt Locker here on Cade Sport. We have equalized heart rate, so you don't really know what a person's max heart rate is, but you do know from the sense of 200 is the max that we typically display. You can see that Tony's at 310, and that will get changed overnight, as we've seen Tony's new maximum heart rate as well. Okay, and then we've got Vanessa using an uncrashable and a greater responsibility in the corners right before the long straight. So it looks like she's trying to, not only has she closed down Tony, but she's moved in front of Tony, and now Tony is using a greater responsibility right before the corner. And that's where a little bit of knowledge of Cade Sport, so it's a great reaction by Tony to respond to Vanessa, but a little more familiarity with the platform and realizing that you wanted to save that one probably until the straight, or use it in combination like Vanessa did with the uncrashable. Great use there. And so it looks like Vanessa's going to hold sort of a low VO2 max effort here. She's in 421 is a normalized FTP for everyone. Similar to heart rate, I was mentioning that earlier. 200 is generally the max heart rate that you would normally see. And once the system learns about a person, it displays 200 as the max heart rate or a percentage thereof. So while you don't know the actual maximum heart rates of the individuals participating, you do get a sense for how hard they're going overall. So here we can see that Brett's at 190. That's making a very significant effort. basically 95% of his maximum heart rate that we've ever seen on the platform. And it's being difficult, I think, for Brett to climb on to Tony. But what you're probably also seeing from Tony now is that these real-time updates in terms of what his power curve looks like, because he's new to the platform and we've just seen him for the first time, or her. Sorry, I keep saying him. By the way, my mom's name was Tony, so I should totally get it on the female side. But what you're seeing here is Brett now being able to sort of connect with Tony. And now the danger is that Vanessa is 7 seconds up the road. She's at 170. She's pretty comfortable. I think Brett will do some recovery. We can't really tell for sure where Tony is, but I'm starting to assume that Tony is now also in the hurt locker. And we've actually got a little bug in here because we shouldn't even be showing anything over 205, but for today, it benefits us well. Okay, so we see here Tony making an attack. So Tony, I would say, is a very aggressive rider. We see Brett responding to that. And Vanessa's pretty comfortable, but she doesn't seem to be going hard. We've got about just a little under 5 kilometers to the finish. Brett takes up the position in front of Tony, and now we're all three are back together on the front here. Very interesting 3-up race. Oh, I love this. Brett says, yep, I'm in the hurt locker, but it's time to put everybody else in the hurt locker. Great cycling strategy. Generally speaking, when I was racing out on the road, one of the things that the coach would always remind us of is when you're hurting, probably everybody else is hurting too. So that's a great time for an attack. Of course, it was always easier, I thought, for the coach to say it than for us to do it. But it does often work quite well. And even repeated attacks can really sort of get into the mental psyche of the people who are riding with you. So Brett here is holding about over FTP. So again, probably low VO2 max effort again here. Vanessa probably putting out a little bit too much effort in the draft there. So a little bit of a sticky draft there unless she goes really hard and she'll go around. But otherwise, she's definitely going to want to conserve the energy. Nice drop down in power by Brett around the corners. That really looked quite good. We see Tony dropping off the back there through the corners. And again, it's definitely a skill that you want to learn. I was talking with a mountain biker the other day who is on CadeSport, and they said they're improving their times on their mountain bike courses because they're improving their cornering thanks to CadeSport and sort of having a better mental picture of when you need to brake, when you need to coast, when you need to put the power down. And they were quite surprised because they thought they were quite good at corners already. But that additional mental focus that the simulation is providing is helping them on the road outside. So I am loving the fact that CadeSport's equalization system is kicked in. We could see that early on Tony had a lot of extra power, and that seems to be neutralized. Now we'll see here coming in the straights, Tony seems to be a very quick study in how to use the power-ups and how to get around the corners. And all you have to worry about here is that you lose that uncrashable in the corner. Oh, and that catches Brett out just as I was saying it. I wish I'd mentioned it a little bit earlier. You really do have to worry about that power-up running out mid-turn, and then you end up crashing. And that caught Brett out. But love the heart that Brett is showing here. Fantastic heart. Brett is like, I am going to climb right back into this thing, and that is fantastic. So hopefully Brett will climb back on. I am certainly pulling for Brett to get back on. Looks like he would have had a big sprint at the end. This will certainly burn some matches for Brett. But Brett, I am totally rooting for you. What a fantastic show of heart there. And then, kudos to Tony here. Vanessa's very skilled at the corners. And I don't know if Tony was a little bit lucky there. or absolutely a quick study because he goes through those corners very well. And it looks like maybe Brett went down. I missed it. That'll be unfortunate if that was the case because, like I said, a fantastic heart shown by Brett. Definitely will round out the podium and certainly deservedly so. With 1.7 kilometers to go, I doubt that he'll close that 6-second gap, but we'll see. Vanessa is now putting the hurt on Tony and showing Tony how it's done. Now, interestingly, we've got different bike choices here. More and more equipment selections coming to Cade Sport, even changing your tire width, your tire tread, your tire pressure, types of brakes on the front and back. And we do take into account, we do all the physics calculations for both the front tire and the back tire. Oh, wow. So, Tony, that was a brilliant play. I thought Tony had it all locked up for the win there, but just a little bit early on that. Oh, and Brett says, you know what? I have a trick up my sleeve too. So with 1 kilometer to go, maybe it's advantage Brett. This will be phenomenal. It would be great for a West London rider to win the West London event. Oh, watch that corner. Watch that corner. Oh, fantastic. Fantastic stuff. 0.5 kilometers to go. Looks like Vanessa's going to try and catch back on. But what a fantastic use and of the tactical, of the power-ups by Brett. And it looks like Brett's going to sort of take it easy here. Nope, he's going to say, you know what, I want to make sure I cross the line first. So that was fantastic. I love to see that. So 1, Tony, a great job at learning the platform. 2, great job, Cade Sport, at equalizing the riders. 3, the skills definitely played a part. And then 4, the power-ups and the tactics used by Brett here. Absolutely phenomenal. And the heart that he showed, a fantastically deserved win. Bravo, kudos, chapeau, whatever you want to say. But the accolades should definitely go. Vanessa, definitely a run for the money, but didn't save one of those power-ups and didn't get far enough away on the others. But as you know, to highlight here, again, everybody's racing together. Fantastic stuff today. Tony not far behind there in 3rd position. So it really changed around in terms of what we thought, how the finish might look, but very exciting finish, a fantastic use of tactics by Brett, and I just love to see that when a rider shows a whole bunch of heart. And then I was counting them out. I was counting those chickens before the eggs had hatched, and Brett showed me that, nope, you can't do that on Cade Sport. There are twists and turns in the tail all the time here on Cade Sport, and we see Renee here crossing the finish line. Great job from him with regards, I mean, he's a developer, so what can we say? He's not even really a cyclist. Come on. 4th place finish for him is great. By the way, me and Renee have been working together for like 25 years, so I can give him a little bit of a hard time for sure. Zany rider here, going to go ahead and finish out the day, and hopefully we'll get to see some of those nice sun rays coming through on the platform that we saw on the first lap. But anyway, fantastic racing today. I know I'm repeating myself here, but I just thought Brett did an awesome job today. And there are the sun rays. If you don't, there's 2 modes on Cade Sport that you may not be aware of. One is sort of medium or low graphics, and one is high graphics. This is the high graphics version. If you're riding on the low graphics version, it doesn't quite look as nice, but it runs on hardware that's much more suitable for lower class machines. And that's just our way of being able to include everybody, because we view ourselves as the most inclusive platform, virtual cycling platform today. So great racing today. Thanks everyone for coming out. And Renee, kudos. Once again, I think you probably went harder than you wanted to. So I'll look forward to chatting with you later and seeing how much coding you are getting done this afternoon. Thanks, everyone.